me how to navigate by your smile. I followed every sunrise straight to you. Thought I had a map where only there was paper. Mistook your warmth for something true. Now streets have turned to rivers in my trembling hands. Signs of faces that refuse to lie. Spinning rooms full of ghosts with familiar promises. And every direction tells a different sky. My broken compass heart keeps pointing to the end. Spins and settles on the echo of your name. I walk the same old miles, retrace the same mistakes. Hope and hurt compete in equal flame. If love is true north, then I'm forever late. With a broken compass heart that can't navigate. Can't navigate. We built a house on weather that was never ours. Hung our pictures in a wind that wouldn't stay. I learned the language of compromise and sudden quiet. The grammar of the things we never say. You taught me how to brave a storm with open hands, but never how to stand when storms are done. I cling to navigation by an empty, fading star, because the other maps have run. My broken compass heart keeps pointing to the end. Spins and settles on the echo of your name. I walk the same old miles, retrace the same mistakes. Hope and hurt compete in equal flame. If love is true north, then I'm forever late. With a broken compass heart that can't navigate. Maybe one day I'll learn to read the constellations on my own. Find a different sun to orbit and a place to call my home. But now the nights are long, the streets are full of doubt, and every step I take keeps turning me back around. I pick up pieces of maps that used to be our plans. Try aligning fragments under trembling light. They form a skyline I don't recognize, still beautiful and strange. A different course to follow through the night. So I pull the old atlas into something smaller, safer. Slip it into the pocket of my coat. I'll learn to find the rhythm of the city and of me, and maybe that will be enough to float. restless heart that can't navigate. We sat forever on the porch with warm hands and colder jokes. Promised summers folding into longer springs. But autumn came early and left the leaves like missed apologies. And then the quiet worked its way into things. Your sweater smells like laughter that won't come back. I leave it hanging on the chair, half hopeful still. The radiator hums a rhythm I don't would your lips. And down the room, but not the chill. When winter stayed, I learned to count the days by how my breath became a cloud. I learned the art of small surviving and how silence can be loud. You melted into distance like a photograph of sun. When winter stayed, I kept the light and let the rest come undone. Windows iced with memories of our ridiculous plans. I trace the dust where our fingers used to meet. The kettle sings, but there's only one cup steaming by the sink. An empty chair is where the world repeats. Neighbors pass with hurried faces, holidays on their page. I hang a single bulb to light the blinds, forgetting how we blinded dreams into the night. Now each strand unmends and leaves me blind. When winter stayed, I learned to count the days by how my breath became a cloud. I learned the art of small surviving and how silence can be loud. You melted into distance like a photograph of sun. When winter stayed, I kept the light and let the rest come undone. They tell me time will thicken sorrow into something mild, like wool that softens weather, like a kind of washing of the wild. But every morning finds me tracing names on frosted glass. melted into distance like a photograph of sun. When winter stayed, I kept the light and let the rest come undone.
The hallway keeps your laughter like a clock that never stops. It ticks across the tiles and houses every doubt. I move like someone practicing for absence, careful and precise, learning how the furniture rearranges out. Your jacket on the banister holds the ghost of your perfume, a scent that loops until the edges fray. I say your name like a habit I can break with one more breath, but the air insists on keeping me that way. Echoes in the hall, they trace the shape of what we lost. They knock on hollow walls and count the cost. I keep listening for footsteps that will never come, and every silence answers me with what has been done. Echoes in the hall, they teach me how to wait for a closed door that will not open, for a knocking that is late. I talk to rooms that answer only in the past tense. They tell me stories that end just where they should. I water plants that lean toward absent light, teach them how to live where loving once stood. There are postcards from a life that used to be our map, pinned like anchors on a world that sailed away. I study each small corner for a sign that you might come back, but the map is all that don't like play. Echoes in the hall, they trace the shape of what we lost. They knock on hollow walls and count the cost. I keep listening for footsteps that will never come, and every silence answers me with what has been done. Echoes in the hall, they teach me how to wait for a closed door that will not open, for a knocking that is late. stretches longer, face pressed to the floor. Shadows stitched and soft, it learns the house's name. I sweep the path where we once walked in unison. Learn the rhythm of my feet and tame the flame. If echoes must remain, then let them be my lesson. Let them show me where to mend and where to start. I'll empty cupboards of the nearly and the might have beens, and leave the doorway open to my heart. Echoes in the hall, they trace the shape of what we lost. They knock on hollow walls and count the cost. I keep listening for footsteps that will never come, and every silence answers me with what has been done. Echoes in the hall, they teach me how to wait for a closed door that will not open, for I'm knocking that is late.
Kept your number in a drawer of worn out things, a photograph that never learns to fade. The coffee cup still bears the ring of where you used to sit, and every little corner hums your name. I try to patch the silence with a steady breath, pretend the nights are shorter than they are. But moonlight finds the fractures in my stubborn chest, and memory remembers every scar. I gather shards of yesterday. They cut, but I can't throw them away. I sew them to my skin to feel the shape of what we made. If loving you was fire, then let these embers say I carried you like gravity until my heart betrayed. You moved like summer, sudden and complete. Left rooms with windows open to your lap. I traced the echo of your footsteps down the hallway, counting how my patient heart was halved. There's a postcard from the season when we swore we'd never change. Now the ink runs like rain against the truth. I keep rehearsing all the lines that could have saved us, but the script fell from the hands of you. I gather shards of yesterday. They cut, but I can't throw them away. I sew them to my skin to feel the in a box and lock the door. But for now I walk through ghost-lit rooms and stare at every little place where you were once there. Friends tell me healing's only measured by the miles, but miles are just a map for absent feet. So I practice saying I'm okay into the medicine of sleep. Pretend the morning doesn't keep repeating, and when the city quiets and the streetlights hum their tune, I let a quiet truth fall into place. Love will leave its fingerprints like rain upon the glass, and some fingerprints refuse to fade. I gather shards of yesterday. They cut, but I can't throw them away. I sew them to my skin to feel the shape of what we made. If loving you was fire, then let these embers say I carried you like gravity until my heart betrayed. I carried you like gravity until my love decayed.
Ink stains on the corner of a letter I never sent, words I couldn't say without breaking down. I fold my pride into a pocket of regret, walk the city hoping to forget this town. Your name keeps ringing like a bell beneath my ribs, toiling for the things I did not do. I promised constellations in a sky I couldn't hold. Now every promise can come spikes as true. There are pages full of mercy I couldn't find a way to give. There are lines that end in silence and a life that tries to live. These are the letters I never sent, sealed with the weight of what went wrong. They hang between my ribs like winter in the sun, cold and long. If I could fold time into these lines, I'd press them to your door. But some words die politely, never knowing what they're for. I watched you walk away with light around your shoulders, like you were leaving nothing but a ghost. I kept the door unlocked for every maybe that you promised. Now empty keys are all I have to boast. The moon cuts through the curtain like a question on repeat, and I'm awake enough to know I'm broken, counting all the almost as the minutes of my grief, trying to barter with the tokens you once wrote. There are songs that lost their chorus, hearts that lost their way to be. There are nights that keep their silence and a dawn that won't concede. These are the letters I never sent, sealed with the weight of what went wrong. They hang between my ribs like winter in the sun, cold and long. If Now strangers pass with stories stitched into their hands, and I collect their laughter like borrowed light. I try to write again with less of you inside the verbs. Learn how to say alone in ways that don't feel like a fight. If someday I find the courage to send even one, maybe you'll read it soft and say it's fine. But if the world keeps swallowing my unsent lines, I'll keep them like a lighthouse for a ship that never finds. These are the letters I never sent, sealed with